Yeah, amateur car brokerage is the right way to put it. It's complete amateur hour. I've spent so many amateur hours in auto brokerage. So I had the great idea of, if you can't beat them, join them. For anyone that was in the state of Georgia many years ago, we lost the ability to sell. I could have sold a car directly to you. Or I could have bought a car directly from you and I wouldn't have had to pay tax on it. That was fun and exciting. An easy way to flip cars was knowing that you'd buy a car. If you didn't like it, you'd sell it to the next guy. On we go. But eventually they changed the law. They got wise and said, or well, basically there was, if I had to guess, dealers that basically lobbied and said, let's change the rules so that we're in a better spot. So if you can't beat them, join them. I decided to join them and made just oodles of mistakes. And it's funny to look back on it. It was not funny at all in the moment. But one of the very first things I did was I wanted to buy an E63 AMG, which one could argue is also a mistake, at least an older used one from auction. Actually, I don't think anyone would argue that that's a mistake. So I was wanting to buy one. And I didn't quite understand how how Mannheim's live auction stuff worked. And next thing you know, I'm like, I click it, and my heart's racing. I think my wife registered it one time. I was like, honey, you're probably gonna die if you keep doing this stuff. But effectively, I clicked the button. I'm like, cool, I think I won it. Like I got it at a good price. And then I get the email ping. I'm like, a white Dodge Ram quad cab V6. I did not buy that. So I called them up. I said, look, I'm sorry. I have no idea what I'm doing. It was a total mistake. You could tell this is the first thing I've ever been on. Like, sorry, you bought a Ram. You happened to buy a Ram in Baltimore. I lived in Atlanta at the time. Hey, honey, want to take a trip up to Baltimore? No, she didn't. Don't blame her. I flew up there, grabbed the truck, drive home. I had her driving that thing around for about a year. She's actually a wonderful woman. She allows me to do all these stupid things. So that was my foray into it. I've managed to buy 2 vans when I thought I bought one. That was a fascinating experience. I was buying the world famous van that Yummy made across the United States, the fastest van in the world, in my opinion. I thought I bought him one. Turns out I bought 2. Again, I didn't understand that these if bids, I thought it was like eBay. It's like, oh, you have a chance to buy it. No, like they basically force you to take it. So if you're too quick on clicking a button, and it's if bid, it says no sale or it says if bid. I didn't know. I was like, well, I didn't get it. So on to the next thing. And then I buy that thing and then it turns around, kind of boomerangs around to me. I owned this car in Florida and it was right around Christmas time. So it was like the worst timing. Wasn't going to go pick up the car, decided to sell it back through the auctions, lost my shirt on that multiple times. So I've done a variety of those stupid things. I went through doing that for about a year or 2 and more stupidity. I shut it down basically in early 2020. I think I can't remember if I just missed COVID or if COVID had kicked in before I turned off the company. Actually, I think it was it was at the end of 19. Perfect timing, right? Just so I could miss the whole meteoric rise of the industry. But I shut it down because we were moving to Chattanooga and all these other things that were going on in life. So I missed all of that. So then in 2022, I decided, let's start this thing up. Not to catch all of the rise, because I realized I pretty much missed all of that. But there's a part of me that never dies, which is I'm just hopelessly car bound, making poor decisions as fast as I can on that kind of stuff. So started it up again, and I've managed to make a few mistakes on those as well. I've realized that, as funny as it is that I've now actually hit the pause button, even though I've been doing it for about a year and a half, it's an interesting thought to say, I want to get into doing this because it's a broken system. I feel like people deserve good cars. Everyone should be transparent and forthright and honest. And that's really my second attempt, was to just kind of go on that way. I was beaten to submission about, no, it's just not going to happen, because as much as you want to, when you're being honest with people, they're like, no, I don't want it. So I'll give you an example. I bought a Toyota Tacoma for a guy. I had just got done telling him, I was like, I really don't want to touch cars for less than 25 grand, because typically just once they get older and they're less than 25 grand, there's so many things that can go wrong, right? They're getting pumped through the auctions for a variety of reasons, some of which are legit, and you can actually get some good cars, but most of them are not. So I told him, I don't do cars for less than 25. He said, no, this would be totally fine. Like, I trust you. We're just going to buy whatever it is, buy him a Tacoma for 20 grand. I'd sell it to him. The next day, he's like, I was looking underneath the car. It's a bit rustier than I like. It was from up north. It was a 2014. It had some surface rust on it. It wasn't like there was corrosion going through it. And trying my best to be, transparent and honest and be that which I think is the right answer for the dealer world. I said, fine, I'll take it back. So I took it back and then eventually had to sell it through the auctions. And I had another scenario, actually, this was probably one of the worst ones. Had bought forget my whole idea of it needs to be for 25 grand or more. This thing was about 40 plus grand. It was a Telluride, a 2022, had 16,000 miles on it. Bought it out of Florida. I get the car. I'm driving it from the guy had just dropped it off off the truck. I'm not even a mile down the road. This thing's massively overheating. I'm thinking to myself, this is a Kia Telluride. It's 2022, 16,000 miles. This is impossible. Turns out, and of course dealers will know this, is that when something occurs to a vehicle, it takes a little while for it to show up on the old Carfax. Maybe that's where VINwiki comes in. But I'll say this, is that if you smack a deer in New York and you can quickly get it through the auctions down south, there's going to be an idiot that'll buy it. So that was a massive problem because now I'm sitting here dealing with this car that I had to take to the Kia dealer because, again, trying to be transparent and forthright with the customer, tell them this is happening. And she was very patient. She said, well, I really want to make sure it's done at the dealer. Of course, sure. So I get it done at the dealer. 3 grand later, after a bunch of repairs, because, after they hid all the stuff from hitting the deer, they had put stop leak in the radiator because that's genius. So I had to get all that stuff replaced. 3 grand in the hole on that one. Eventually got it sold through the auctions. And at that point, it was good shape-ish. I just was so done with it. I didn't even want to have the conversation with a person to sell it. So I had a lot of bumps and bruises even on the second round. I actually hit the pause button recently because I've been so involved with the push for WRC in the United States. But I would argue that there's still kind of a reason for it. If you go through cars fast enough, like definitely under a year. If you do 2 or 3 sports cars per year, I think it's justifiable to have the dealer license. It's not tax avoidance. It's completely legal, but it's a great way to say, I don't need to be joining the group of people that love to pay taxes on cars that were sold and resold and taxed and retaxed 1,000 times over. So as long as you're doing a decent amount of cars for yourself, just for the sheer fun of it, having a dealer tag is pretty awesome. You get 3 of them from the state of Georgia. You could slap them on any car you like and you can drive it down the road. So to properly exercise the joy of having a dealer plate, you go out and buy the thing that you want to drive and you don't get too caught up in, I don't have to spend a lot of money on registering it. So this is another bonus and another reason why, honey, I'd like to buy an Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio, or Clarkson calls it the Quattro Formaggio. Ironically, I got cheese socks on. All that to say is, from my perspective of this Alfa Romeo, it's a 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. I think it was early 2019. I had bought the car. It's a thrill. I love that car. It's fantastic. Still wish I had it. Yes, kind of ruined that part of it. I did sell it, of course. As a dealer, you have to. But bought the car and thinking to myself, yeah, you drive it a few thousand miles. You spend a few bucks. Maybe you can make a few bucks, but worst case, you break even. Worst case. Not when Alfa Romeo decides that they're going to do a massive rebate about a month or 2 into it, and their pricing dropped by almost 10 grand. What does that do to the used market? Same damn thing. Why would you all of a sudden be buying a used one when now it's just so much closer to buy a new one? So that was rough. The only saving grace was that I held on to it long enough. I ended up selling it to myself because I was shutting down the dealership. So I sold it to myself, then ended up paying the taxes on it, ironically. But then at least I was able to catch some of the rise from COVID. So when I actually sold it, I lost a few grand, but when have I not in the car world? So yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. Thank you, Alpha. There's some fun to be had, but you got to have some thick skin. You got to be willing to take the hits and say, what can I learn from this? Remind yourself that you're doing this because you chose to, and it should be fun, but sometimes it's not.
You asked for it, and AutoTempest now has an app. So head over to your app store now, download it to your phone, and leave them a great review. So now, whether you go to autotempest.com by clicking the link in the description below, or just open up your phone app, you'll be getting access to all the results from all the major listing sites in one place. That is why we love AutoTempest so much. We appreciate their support of VINwiki over the years, of CarTrek, but most of all because it is exactly where I go every day to find my next car.